thing that interests me about this assignment right away was finding 5 new platforms that I have not used before. I have enjoyed this process so far because my students are about to start reading Animal Farm, and so I feel like when I thought of tools that were new to me and that also integrated technology, I was super excited because we at the program currently are working to integrate more technology into the classroom. And so I definitely have enjoyed looking for resources to help my students better understand the text of Animal Farm as a whole. So, as you can see on my screen, I currently have a pull up or a PDF of Old Major's speech that takes place in Animal Farm, Chapter 1, I want to say. And so this has sort of centered my assignment, and there are a few platforms that I was able to sort of research and look into. And the first one was Rewordify. So, Rewordify is a platform that allows for you to make text more accessible. So, one thing that I enjoyed, and I'll take this part out, was that it sort of, once you land on the site, there's space for you to go ahead and put in the text. And it gives you a few examples. And so it takes a text that might start off as frustrating and integrates it and differentiates it into a form that is more understandable for students. So a pro is that it's definitely geared towards one thing that I love and I stand behind is differentiation, meeting the student where they're at. And so this definitely allows students to engage a bit more easily with text. And it just makes things simpler for students. And so one thing that I did when I got on the site was I went back to my original text and I did a quick copy and paste of a portion of the speech, and I wanted to try this out myself. And so I put it in and I let Rewordify sort of break it down into a text that is easier for students to read, especially if this is their first time reading Orwell, or I have a student that might not understand the passage. It gives them a text that's broken down a bit more. It also records like the reading time at the top. And so if you do want to sort of keep an eye on how long it's taking a student to read a text, it also has that feature. One con that I noticed was that it was very text heavy and is primarily text focused. And so let's say a student is, more into pictures and photography, this might not be the best site to use consistently. But I can see myself implementing this if I have students doing independent work and they're like, hey, Miss Jessica, I don't necessarily understand this passage. This gives me an opportunity to give them that space to work independently and break down the text in an easier way. Wonderful. A second site that I looked into was ClassHook. So I know that there's a whole idea around integrating technology in the classroom and how much is too much. So with ClassHook, it is a platform that allows you to find educational clips and videos online that sort of go with your topic. So of course, Animal Farm is anchoring a lot of my research right now. And so one pro that I noticed that is different from Rewordify is that this is very video heavy. And it sort of gives students that autonomy of, hey, I don't necessarily, get by with the text. This allows my students that are more visual to have that aspect integrated. So one thing that I liked was that I clicked on the George Orwell video, and it sort of gives you information about the author. It's a video from online. And what you're able to do is it provides you with captions, of course, making it accessible, but it also allows for you to generate discussion questions. And so let's say that you want to add questions for students to answer as they're going through the video. That's an option. you can pause prompts. So you can pause the video and have students answer questions. And so that also allows you to facilitate classroom discussions. So I think that was something that I'm definitely looking forward to using in my classroom. One con is that some of the video clips require a bit more context. So I would not necessarily give my students just watch the video. I would want to give them a bit of context around like what was the historical context of George Orwell. If we go back to the previous tab, let's say I wanted them to watch Old Major's speech. Well, that clip is not available anymore. And so just making sure that there is context provided for students as well. So this will definitely allow me to integrate videos into class discussions and allow students to see that it isn't one or the other, it can be both. So the third platform that I took note of is Padlet. So Padlet was new to me, and I actually really am looking forward to using it. It's similar to a platform that I've used in the past, which is Nearpod, but this I feel like is more hands-on and a bit more exploratory, whereas Nearpod doesn't necessarily allow for that. It has to be more teacher driven. So one thing that I tried to do was I wanted to start from scratch and I wanted to sort of see what was available. So I can have students draw on the Padlet. I could also have students just like have grids that pop up. And I hit discussion board and I sort of started my own discussion board around Animal Farm. So it allows you to go in and add a title. So of course, Animal Farm Old Major speech. I added a description. I want students to focus on inferences. We've focused on it, but this is something that's definitely going to come back with a lot of foreshadowing in Animal Farm. You can sort of change the icons and change the appearance. So you can definitely make it brighter, and you can sort of make it fit to whatever the theme is for what you're going over. You can also change font, make it more accessible for students, and you can format how it looks. And one thing that I am excited is that it has this feature where you can like or vote on discussion posts. And so that sort of gives students that ability to interact with one another over Padlet. And it also allows for you to see what students are thinking. And you can make the post anonymous, or you can make it where they have to put their name. You can do author and timestamp. You can show it or you can hide it. So this also gives you that space to sort of allow students that autonomy and that and allow students to have that anonymous feature to it. And so if there is confusion, it's not necessarily putting it on, Front Street for students. They can sort of do that self-check, and that gives them that autonomy when it comes to their workspace. So I'm excited to use Padlet. Another feature or another app or program that I noticed was Bunsy, which is a platform that allows you to create projects. And so one thing that I want my students to start doing are making pamphlets. I know that propaganda comes up a lot when we think about books like Animal Farm. And so one feature that it allows students to do is make brochures. And this is sort of a way for, of course, when I was in school, we did, we folded our paper into 3 sections and we wrote our brochure out. This also gives students that space to show their creativity. I have a lot of students that are very creative and love to draw and love to animate. And so I feel like Bunsy is definitely a site that I'll come back to. And so I set up a little brochure myself. And so what it allows you to do is go in and edit. You can change pictures, move them around, change different colors, and it allows you to set up information. So I definitely want students to dive into this concept a bit more and use it. So a pro is that it has, a lot of templates that students can use, a lot of templates that I can use if I want to use this in my classroom. They've got a whole lot of different topics. But with having options, there are a lot of options. And so I have students that might feel overwhelmed. And so I also felt a little overwhelmed when I first looked at it until I sort of was able to look into the categories a bit more. But I wouldn't want students that need to make awards and recognition, so I would have to definitely guide them on where I want them to go, or just give them time to do a quick look over it before we got into projects and things like that. And the last site that is new to me is News ELA. I had not used this site before. I had seen peers of mine use it, but it never came up as something that I wanted to use in the classroom. And so, what News ELA is, it is a site that provides you with text that you can use in your classroom, and it allows you to differentiate the text. And so, I'm a big proponent of reaching all students. And so, I had looked up George Orwell, and this provides me the ability to build an assignment. So I can title my assignment and provide activities. And so I can add instructions here for students. And I'm also able to write prompts and provide quizzes for students. So as they finish work, I'm able to sort of see and gauge how they are understanding the text. There are different levels of the text. Once you unlock it, it allows you to look at text at different levels. And so, one thing that I enjoy is that this allows students to see a text at their own level. So, if they are at a higher Lexile level or a lower Lexile level, they'll have the same text, but it will be in a way that is easier for them to understand. And I think that opens up education to more students and it makes learning truly accessible. So I have enjoyed this assignment and these tools. Rewordify, ClassHook, Padlet, Buncee, and my Use ELA are definitely sites that I feel support literacy and engagement in a way that is different. They all have different aspects, but at the same time, they allow us to get to the end goal of forming a supportive environment for students that allows them to take ownership of their own learning.